Welcome to Hot Topics, where this week we're going to be talking about university grads and private practice, vaccinations and retention. But we'll leave you hanging a little bit, Andy, about what kind of retention we're going to talk about. Could it be customers? Could it be employees? Could it be associates? Let's wait and see.
Yeah.
So I know you've been having some regular dialogue again, Andy, with the unis. Now it's graduation time, and I've seen lots of LinkedIn hurrahs as people come out with their graduation, which is fantastic news.
No, it is good news, and I'm sure for most of the graduates, I'm sure they're quite glad to get. I'm sure the last 18 months of their studies has been different to how we experienced our university's experience, especially.
Absolutely.
So congratulations for all those that have are getting their certificates and their cap and gowns, and I hope they get to celebrate in some way, shape or form. Yeah, I think for me, it's interesting, isn't it, when where to go when starting out in your career, and that was something which of which avenue to go. You know, if you're, some people might have the vision. I mean, we talk about business, don't we? And we talk about when you set up a business, where's the vision of where you would go to, what's the long-term plan? And I guess my curiosity is how many of you guys that are graduated or have graduated or graduates, where do you see yourself? What's the long-term goal? How many of you, are dreaming one day of developing or having your own therapy business and want to become a therapy business owner? And it's a really exciting time. And when we're constantly having conversations between us and with our clients, Phil, about recruitment.
Yeah, we are.
And you think the amount of jobs that now in the MSK market, especially that we see or having conversations about, it's a really exciting time to be graduating, hopefully, because the opportunities in a growing market is really exciting. And I also think now that, and I'd be curious if anyone listening wants to comment on this and kind of see where their mindset is, because it's the conversations we're having an awful lot around in the recruitment, how many people are considering taking graduates on? How many people are seeing a graduate that has got all the enthusiasm, has got the potential to be grown and developed in a good organization in a way that you want? How many people are looking at those and saying, do you know what, this is a perfect opportunity to help and develop somebody having a really start to their career, which I think is lovely if you're going to give somebody that opportunity. And also, how many people see this as, as graduates thinking the opportunity to go in straight out of university, straight into an organization where they can be mentored and coached to a good level. So it's a really interesting time, isn't it? And and
it is. And I think one of the things that I've also noticed in our conversations is inevitably, perhaps in a good way, that the number of clients that are now coming through looking for bookings is growing quite rapidly. And I know some of the people we're working with have actually already back to waiting lists. So I guess there's the balance, isn't there, between being a really busy therapy business and a very busy clinician, and then recognizing that you need to set some time aside if you're going to bring a graduate into your organization to develop not only their clinical skills, but the complementary interpersonal skills and business skills that are required to support you as the business owner. And we're back to this kind of busyness piece where some of the people we're talking to are saying, well, we've just got so much demand. I'm actually back in the clinic myself now again. And can I actually afford the time or put the time aside to support a graduate into the business? And I think that's a challenge, but it's one that needs challenging, I think, in terms of the mindset of business owners.
For me, I mean, I spent, and I'm not saying that our way is the only way to do things. I'm saying that, we had at least one graduate join us every year in our peak, and most of them went on. The minimum was 5. 5 to 7 years with somebody, and they all left to go on to do some really good things. And some of the people we've taken in our graduate program, I'm really proud of watching their professional career now grow, because, they gave us, for some 5, some 7 years of phenomenal service, and they've come on, and I'm really proud of what they've achieved. So, you do feel, and for me, I would definitely support it. Yeah, certainly takes time, but the rewards, especially if you are committed to providing a full-on service to your customers and everything else, then I think it's certainly a consideration if you're prepared to put the time in to doing it.
I think it's also important from my point of view, because we all started somewhere.
Yeah, 100%.
And if we hadn't, I know from my point of view, although, listeners will know that my background isn't in therapy. If some of the organizations, some of the bosses I work for hadn't given me the opportunity, then I wouldn't have developed a career in the way that I have. So if you're not prepared to support somebody who has got a great skill set, but actually needs the experience and the mentorship actually to develop into a first-rate clinician, but also a great employee, and ultimately potentially a business owner within the industry, then it just doesn't feel right to me. So I know there is the practice of, I am really busy and I'm concerned that I wouldn't be able to support a grad in the way that I might want to. But that's almost like needs reframing to me, in the sense that, well, I need to make the time because I need to develop capacity capability within my business. And for those of us that are thinking bigger than my business in terms of the private sector therapy world that is supporting the NHS in terms of the provision, then there seems to be a bit of an imbalance there. But I know not everybody will agree with that.
No, but I think, if I'm going to skip over in the order that we normally do things and jump to retention here, I would say if you could retain a good therapist from having a good training program from a graduate for 5 to 7 years, as a business owner, as a therapy business owner, if you knew you were going to get that consistency, you knew that you'd been the one that had, from day one, trained in the way that you felt the service should be delivered within your organization, if you knew that consistency of service, what benefit to your business would that offer you? You alluded to the word retention, can go to customer retention and client retention. When I wrote retention on a list of things to topic, Phil was like, what are you on about? And it's a really good challenge, because it can be down client and it can be customer. But again, if you've then got a consistent member of staff, you get consistent service, which improves customer retention or client retention or patient retention, depending on how comfortable you feel with that word. So again, as an overall business and a service, it's definitely something where you must be considering bringing in younger, if not a graduate level. And then you see that if you can put that time, effort, and energy at the start, the long-term benefit of that to your organization could be phenomenal. And I
also think, just to build on that, Andy, made me think about, generationally, there will be a difference, because somebody who's coming out of uni at the age of 21, 22 now, or possibly older if they're retraining and starting a different career, will have learned different practice from different clinical educators, and they can bring that into your environment and kind of cause a bit of a shake up in the thinking. Or actually cause people who are a little bit set in their ways in terms of, well, I tend to do these things by following, step 1, 2, 3. And then somebody says, well, do you know about ABC now? Then that in its own way can develop clinical and business confidence and competence within your organization.
Oh, certainly. And I think we should embrace the new ideas. I mean, I think that's how we learn. And I think it's being brave as a leader to accept that you don't know everything. And I think people see asking for help sometimes a weakness or a strength, and that seems to be something that comes across all the time. And then you get really experienced physios who potentially have become set in their ways. Might be shouted at for that, but you know, that potentially is the case. They've not done as much CPD as they know they should have done, or kept up to things. So actually, to bring, you know, I was going to say young whippersnapper, but you highlighted they could have retrained. So someone new to the profession, let's call it, you know, with the new ideas, the new plans, they might be more keen on the learning, and especially now, you know, clinical education is, it's so easy to access now. You know, whereas when I was learning, we had to our university didn't even have all the journals. We had to get on 2 trains and a bus to go to a different university to get access. We had to book a slot to go and access to their journals, because to photocopy them, because ours didn't have them. Whereas now you just, you take a Friday off and you sit in Therapy Live and you've learned kind of all that content. So, you know, I definitely think it's really exciting, and I think it's brave, but also ambitious for therapy business owners to take them on, and for graduates, I think it's a fantastic time to kind of start embracing the world as it is, which is exciting, even though we're in a bit of a crazy time in the world. I have to talk about crazy times in the world. I know we're not going to go into massive detail on this, but I wanted to give a bit of a snippet, because I know you've had I don't know the ins and outs of this, listeners, and I'm looking forward to listening to the full things, but I know Phil's had a conversation with our in-house employment lawyer around the vaccine. So I don't know if you want to give us a little bit of an overview,
a bit of a snippet.
Quick, a bit of snippet, yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was an interesting conversation, and the truth at the moment is there isn't an absolute answer, despite what some of the social media might be saying. And we were thinking about this in broad terms, in terms of what's the impact to a business and to employees or associates within a business. And then we turned our focus a little bit more into the therapy world. So as things stand, there's no legal requirement for an employer to enforce vaccination. Although an organization might decide to have a policy which it introduces, and of course, if you go down that kind of route, you need to take proper legal advice and to consult with the employees or the suppliers or the associates that are affected by your change in policy. And we then moved on, we then moved on to talk about the heat that's in the media at the moment around the expected legislation around care homes.
Okay.
And that's on its way, but hasn't yet appeared. Now, the question for me then around care homes is will that legislation spread wider? But also, because therapy is a broad church in terms of business delivery, and there are different models and different relationships with FCP, GP practices, possibly going into older people's homes to give support on site, etc., etc. There may well become a requirement by association that the legislation that will come in around care homes may actually affect some or all of your employees if you are a provider of contracts that affect areas that are covered by that statutory provision. So Sarah goes into a little bit more detail and waxes a little bit more eloquently than me about where the principles are and how to apply them. So we're going to be releasing that in the next week or so. And we're also going to do a follow-up, because once we know what the legislation does say and does require, then obviously we'll run a second stage. So that content will be in the academy for our EYC Academy members, but we'll also put out a version probably as a podcast, because we took an audio, and you'll probably see it as a video too. So look out for that if you're interested in the topic of vaccinations, either as an employee, an associate, or a business owner.
Definitely something I think people need to keep an eye out, just to keep making sure they're keeping up to date. So fantastic. Right, once again, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we've had a quick rattle through graduates leaving uni and thinking about where their first step is, and whether as a therapy business owner you ought to be thinking about encouraging graduates into your business. A quick cant around the importance of retention, and we'll return to retention again and again, both in terms of employees and in terms of clients, customers, patients, call them whatever you will in your particular aspect of therapy. And then a quick reminder about the upcoming content for advice on vaccinations. So until next time, Andy.
See you, Phil.
See you.